you a show. And I believe we are live. Hello, everybody. This is Chris. I'm the host of the Weekly Spinner Rack. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to talk about the comic book news of the week. I'm going to be drawing and talking about that stuff, answering your questions. I'm always going to start with reviewing the comics that I personally have read in the past week. Just a small heads up here, though. I'm fighting a cold of some sort. I don't know exactly what I got. You probably can hear it in me. I'm very congested. So I probably am going to sound kind of nasally today. If I talk for a while, I may have to catch a breath. I may cough a little. Just giving you a small heads up. I'm just fighting something. But I feel a little better today than I have for the last 3 days. So I'm kind of hopeful that I'm making some progress. I'm not sure what I've got yet. I'm gonna get a test for the big thing on Wednesday, just to be sure. But anyway, let me say hello to people that I see here. I'm seeing hello to Brian, Gantris, A-Man, All Lucky 7, I Am Brunson, Andrew Jefferson, Iron Shell. Oh, hi! You caught me recovering from a cold. Speaking of colds, it's freezing in my house, so I'm wearing my Boba Fett hoodie. Hello, Lawrence. It's nice to see all of you. Well, let's get into it. No reason to dilly-dally, as the kids say. First thing I read this week is definitely a highlight, and that is The Good Asian. If you like crime comics, I've talked about this in some past episodes. I am loving this, and I think that what I'll just point out here is that the thing I like about this is, of course, I like a crime story. I like a mystery story. It's well drawn. But the thing I really want to talk about today is writer Pichetshote, and I could be mispronouncing that, seems to do an amazing amount of research, because you need to understand this is set in like 1920s Chinatown, San Francisco. And it's just amazing how authentic everything about it feels. Boy, this has a really clean divide in the middle. So anyway, just an amazing, like, immersive story. It really makes you feel like you're in a different place. By the way, I just realized I've got top chat. I'm changing that to live chat. Hopefully that's a little more clean. Oh, look at that. We've got a professional in the chat. Hello to Food One. We've got Jim Mahfood in there, and thank you. Yes, the Steve Gerber video he refers to as the latest video that I put up. Just an interesting story. I really liked a lot of Steve Gerber's Defender stuff. It was weird, but kind of cool, because it was full of like a bunch of kind of like second and third string characters, and yet it treated them as real people. But it also kind of played up some of the goofiness. It was a really interesting mix that you could even see some of that tonality in the current MCU movie stuff. Anyway, this is definitely among the pick of the week for me. I will say, I don't think everything got delivered to my comic shop this week. We are still dealing with shipping delays from some publishers, so I may have missed some stuff that I normally read. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll find out next week. Next one I read was Orcs in Space. Talked about this before. While we are 7 issues in at this point, you really don't need to have read the previous ones to get this story. It is a continuing story, but it's a humor book, and it is funny. It's weird. It's 3 orcs, which are essentially like the Three Stooges in a Star Trek-esque type of universe. And in this one, they talk to some creator who built their spaceship, and I guess he becomes an enemy for next issue. I'm really charmed by the artwork of Francois Vigneault. I think that that's what I like the most about this, actually. I thought that it would be the jokes. Maybe it's just this issue. I was just really charmed by this art. It's probably not for everybody, so it's not like necessarily my pick of the week, but it's good reading. My sister's there. Hello, Jean. And also hello to Terry and Sam and Uros. Nice to see some folks. Last time I reviewed Stillwater, I said that I wasn't sure if I was still invested. And then leave it to Chip Zdarsky and Ramon Perez to just totally bring me around 180 degrees. Because this issue, I was drawn right back into all the characterizations and stuff. This is a world where there's a small town that if you live within its borders, you are immortal. And they obviously protect that secret very, very carefully. There is, in this issue, an attempted coup of the leadership, who is, at this point, being led by what looks like a kid, but of course they're all, at this point, quite old. And it was a good action sequence. Lots of people getting shot and burned, but not dying, and that sort of plays up the horror. And then the characters do something. They find, they get access to this old map that the town is, and they slightly change its borders, and it seems like that is affecting how people, like people within the drawn borders are what's surviving. So I guess it's something supernatural in nature, is what it's implying. Anyway, all I can say is I was right back in. This is a horrific idea. It really plays up the existential horror of living forever. Just how scary that actually could be. Do the Orcs go to space? Boy, do they. They go there and they stay there. That was everything new I read. The rest, I'll just go through quickly. I got some back issues. This one was a good price. An issue of Star Wars. Who's that? That's Black Chrysanthemum. That big, bad Wookiee that you saw in the last episodes of the Boba Fett TV show. Written by Jason Aaron. One of the better writers in comics these days, I think. At least in mainstream superhero stuff. Does that well. Artwork by Mike Mayhew, who I hadn't read anything before this week by Mike Mayhew. Very photorealistic. In other words, it could look referenced, but it's actually pretty smooth. With one small exception, and I opened up to it. Obi-Wan here is like standing on rocks, and it looks like he's standing on rocks in this panel, like there's good shading. But then in this one, even though he's drawn like he's posed on rocks, it's like there's no rock under his foot right here. It was like the background didn't quite match up. And I don't know how much of this is like drawn versus how much of this is like sort of Photoshop filters. But it looks pretty good. I mean, look, this is an action sequence, and it doesn't look too stiff, which is something I think you deal with some artists who reference stuff too much. This flows with a pretty great energy. So yeah, Mike Mayhew, not sure where he came from, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, this is set when Luke Skywalker is just a kid, and it's basically just a short story of Black Chrysanthemum has been sent to draw out and fight Obi-Wan. It's basically the story of how Black Chrysanthemum gets his scar that you'll see if you watch him in the TV show. Kind of fun issue. Kind of a key issue, too, for that character. I hope we see more of him. Cool villain. And then I got another Star Wars book. This was the last Star Wars book that Dark Horse published when they had the license before it went back to Marvel. It's so interesting. It's called The Star Wars. And what it is it's based on George Lucas's first rough draft of the screenplay. So it has the big things in it. Like it has Jedi. It has Darth Vader. It has, Jedi. It has Skywalker. It has Princess Leia. But it is totally different. It really is. It's totally different. It's like it's got the big, broad ideas, but they're not even laid out in the same order. And a lot of the character names have changed. So it's very interesting just seeing this first draft turned into a story. It kind of looks like Star Wars. They've also based a lot of these characters off of some initial pitch ideas by Ralph McQuarrie, who did a lot of the concept art for Star Wars when it was being developed. Yeah, like this is Darth Vader is this guy. Like doesn't have the iconic helmet or anything, for instance. And what else? You know, Leia's got her parents. This is Skywalker. He's kind of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Skywalker is. And then there's like a guy named Kane Starkiller who's kind of like a more experienced Luke from the movies. They're like buddies. But he himself, like, he has kids, first of all. One of them is Anakin, spelled differently. But also he's like a cyborg, kind of like the Darth Vader idea. So there's a lot of like, and there's also like characters in here that if you really know Star Wars, you'll recognize like names. You'll recognize names like Biggs Darklighter or I don't know, just other like little characters that are like in here, but are not the same. Antilles. There's a guy named Antilles, but he's totally different. He's like a smuggler. And then they've got Star Destroyers, spelled as one word, and they're 2-man crafts, like the size of like an X-Wing. But these are Star Destroyers, which the Empire has. And the Empire itself really strikes me as a mix between stuff from Frank Herbert's Dune and stuff like Flash Gordon. So that was interesting. Just a novelty, I guess, more than anything else. But it is different. And I thought it was kind of cool just to see the concepts. And I'll be honest, I don't think work as well as the finished movies, Star Wars. They don't. But we've got that to compare to. And if you're into Star Wars, it is interesting to see. And this artwork also is by Mike Mayhew. Very, very good. So the co-creator of Photoshop, John Knoll, came up with the plot of Rogue One. Oh, I never heard that. That is interesting. So this is very weird. If you know Star Wars, you're like, wait, that's not quite right. Or that's way more different than I expected. Some of the planets are different. Some of them have the same names, but they look different. Very, very strange, but interesting. If you're into Star Wars, this is good. I probably wouldn't interest people too much on its own. I mean, it is an interesting story, but it's mostly interesting to see a complete version of this rough draft so that you can compare it to what actually came. So anyway, I also was able to pick up this. I don't know how many of you out there like indie stuff, but I came up in the late 80s, early 90s for comics. That's when I was getting into it. I was really into a lot of the black and white stuff, especially Ninja Turtles. This is an issue of Flaming Carrot, which was it was published through Dark Horse, but always owned by Bob Burden, who wrote and drew it. And boy, does he have a unique sense of humor. He came up with a character called the Flaming Carrot, and also these guys called the Mystery Men, who were like not good enough to be in the mainstream superhero teams. They just have weird powers. There's like Mr. Furious. They made a movie of it, but it's pretty loosely based on the comics. In this, like, here's an example of the humor. Let me see if I can find this one joke that really cracked me up. Oh, okay. So they're trying to find out, the bad guys in this are evil umpires, as in baseball umpires that make the call. And they're like, where would we find umpires? Like, how would we find them? And like, this is actually Raphael. He's got amnesia, and the Flaming Carrot gave him his own like superhero suit. And they're like, umpires, how do we find umpires? Baseball is off season. He goes, hey, I know. What about the Empire State Building? The Empire State Building. And he's like, they're in New York, and he's like, the Empire State Building, which is actually the Empire State Building, but whatever, that's what he says. And Flaming Carrot goes, that's it. What great detectiveness you have. In just one day, you're already almost as good as me. And here's the great part. They go to the Empire State Building, and that's literally where the bad guys are. That just, it's a coincidence, like that their terrible detective work worked. It's hilarious. It's a really funny issue. So this was just fun to come across. The cool thing about Bob Burden was he never did reprints of his stuff. So this stuff's a little harder to find. I wouldn't say it's like totally in demand. So sometimes you can find it for a good price, but because like it was never like reprinted or anything, that can make it hard to find. Anyway, this is the second of a 3-part crossover with Ninja Turtles, and so that was the main reason I got this one, because I really like the Ninja Turtles. But yeah, we've got the Shoveler and Mr. Furious. Oh, there's also another really good joke I got to show you. I know this is... I'm going to take it right back out again. I got to show you this other good joke. Oh, I'm so congested I can barely breathe. Where are those guys? There's like an alien who's being taught how to drive, and they're in New York City. Okay. And so like this guy's teaching the alien how to drive, and he's like, hey, look at those two over there. They look kind of like terrorists. And so the alien goes, hey guys, are you terrorists? And these guys are like, huh, who, me? And then they're like, yup. And they open their jackets and they're terrorists. And that's how easily they caught them. They're like, all right, screwball, very satisfactory work. Hey, are you terrorists? You got us. Dumb, but funny. I miss the days when stuff like this, could be published by a company like Dark Horse and put into comic book stores everywhere, and you could find it, because it's kind of subversive. It's very indie. It's like rough. There'll be a couple spelling errors. The artwork isn't always like exciting, but there's passion behind it. So like the jokes are really funny and the story is really original. So that's what I like about it. This one I picked up just for the cover. The cover is painted by a guy named Stephen Russell Black, who I follow on social media. Really like his work. He does really interesting work. Like a lot of it will be like people that like halfway through their face will turn into something monstrous. But the story ended up being really cool. It's written by a guy named Eric Palicki. The artwork inside is by Wendell Cavalcanti. It's by Scout Comics. And it's about a hitchhiker who goes through a small town only to find out that like the small town has a vampire problem, but he's actually not surprised, because he is something like he just like punches the vampire right away. He has no fear of it, and then he turns into something like reptilian. So it's a big weird mystery story, and he tries to like get word to the outside about what's going on here, but a mysterious figure in a sheriff's uniform actually blows up the truck of like a delivery person that was given that message. Ends on a hook. Good mystery. This came out a couple years ago, I guess, so I got to get caught up. I only got it for the cover, but then I liked the story. So this one was a pleasant surprise, basically. I won't go too into detail on this. I covered this book lightly 2 weeks ago on my episode about shoujo manga, and I'd read it digitally, but I just decided I wanted to get a hard copy because I liked it so much. It's called Claudine. It's by a lady named Riyoko Ikeda. And it's a story about a trans man, Claude, born Claudine, trying to find love, finds love with various women. In the end, like, seems to have like a really good relationship with a ballerina. They're really in love. Until she meets Claude's brother. Yeah, this is her meeting Claude's brother towards the end. And she leaves Claude for his brother. Claude talks to his therapist, and like the therapist gives him the idea like, well, maybe she thinks you're an imperfect man. He's like, oh, that's it. Imperfect. I see. I am an imperfect man then. This is what it is. Okay, so I'll never be perfect. And he kills himself. It's so tragic. It's melodramatic. But it's just interesting. This is a story that came out in the 70s. The artwork is really pretty. And it's a really tragic story. But look at the even the backgrounds here. It's set in France, because of course, like, Japan would not put anything, like, they would never have gay or trans characters set in modern day Japan. They just didn't do that. So all their stories that involved, like, anything on the LGBTQ spectrum was always set in Europe. But it's beautiful. It's a really interesting story. I liked it. These I got cheap. This was one of the first... Wouldn't that be a trans woman? No, because assigned female at birth, so she is a man, a trans man. That's what it would be called. This was one of the first comics I ever got, and I got it at my dentist's office. It was AIM toothpaste. I don't think they even make AIM toothpaste anymore. I'm not sure. I don't feel like I've seen AIM toothpaste for a long time now that I think of it. I tend to get Crest, but I don't think they make AIM anymore. Anyway, they published these 2 issues of Spider-Man. This one's really short. This one is a full-length issue. Written by Marv Wolfman. Artwork by Alex Saviuk, who for a long time drew the Web of Spider-Man comic in the 80s and 90s. I'm not going to open it because these are in kind of rough shape, and like I want to try to protect them. I just got these because it was a good price, and it was like recapturing some nostalgia from my childhood. In this one, the Green Goblin wants to steal a laser drill that Peter Parker's dentist has designed. And he wants to use it at a dentist convention to open up this, like, humongous tooth because it's filled with a filling that's made with silver and gold. And he wants to steal the silver and gold. I mean, that feels like something that belongs from the 50s, but no, it was more recent than that. They still make AIM toothpaste. Did not know that. Oh, was I using the wrong pronouns? My sister just caught me. I did get myself confused. I'm not thinking too clearly. You know why I did that? The book tends to use the name Claudine and uses female pronouns, but he calls himself Claude and lives as a man. Just to be clear. Was it a form of censorship? It wasn't a form of censorship, Andrew. It was sincerely that, like, at that point in time, Japan literally just did not really acknowledge that their citizens could be, you know, gay, bi, trans. They just didn't acknowledge that. So if they told stories about that kind of stuff, they'd always set it in a foreign land or a fictional setting. That was just what they did at the time. Anyway, yeah. So these are goofy as hell. That was just for myself. And then the last thing I read was fantastic. People have been telling me to read this for a long time, and I finally got around to it. It's actually a quick read, even though this is a thick book. This is actually a pretty quick read. It's by Joe Kelly, who people probably know best from stuff like Deadpool. I think he wrote some X-Men stuff. Artwork by Ken Nimura. It's a story about like a teenage girl in school dealing with a lot of stuff, and it's basically depression. Has a lot of trouble at home. Makes a new friend, Sophia, that moves into stuff like D&D. Has a good guidance counselor trying to reach out to her. There is something sort of like overtly like weird that happens, but it happens like real late in the book. Great artwork. It really flows quickly. This is a quick read, even though it's a big story. I mean, quick for its size. I really liked this character of Barbara. She was really well-rounded. I thought this was a really honest look at depression. And then this trade paperback actually comes with a bunch of pinup artwork as well as behind-the-scenes articles on the development of the characters and the plot and stuff like that, which I thought was really valuable. Strong recommend. Not brand new, but this is like one of the things I definitely give my strongest recommendation. Also, I give The Good Asian my pick of the week for new material. So those are the two things I strongly recommend out of what I read. Hopefully that's helpful. And with that said, I banged out just a very simple sketch, just a bust of Boba Fett, because I've been watching the Boba Fett show, and I've been enjoying it for the most part. I will say this is not a spoiler, but there is a chase scene in the third episode that they just didn't film very well because it feels so slow. It's like the slowest chase scene I've ever seen. I am really congested. But I've also got topics. I've got, look, Chris, have you read Stray Bullets or any other Lapham work? And if so, what are your thoughts? Yes, I love Stray Bullets. I would love to do a breakdown of all of Stray Bullets. What an amazing crime story. A cast of dozens that is told non-sequentially, or non-linearly, I should say, and builds on itself in amazing ways. Stray Bullets is something special. Just amazing. Did you get me this Boba Fett sweatshirt, Jeannie? I am wearing my Boba Fett hoodie. Here, let me... Hey. Do I look like Boba Fett now? I didn't know they made an I Kill Giants movie. They made a movie? A movie? I didn't know that. What about Stray Dogs? Read that last week. Covered it in last week's episode. Very good. Very good stuff. Trying to draw with my whole arm here because you can get like a straighter line, and if you pull, it seems like you usually have more control as compared to pushing. Maybe the chase scene was really fast, but you tapped into the speed force. That could be. Daniel says, I agree, that was one of the slowest chase scenes. It was like, I made the joke like right away. I was like, it looked like old people hover around scooters or something. It was just so bizarre because it just felt slow. I've got some topics. Let me, I'm looking at my notes. I've got some topics, comics news of the week and such. So let's take a look. Oh, here's the first one. It's a little bit of a bummer. I really like the work of Brian K. Vaughan. And so I was very excited when they made an adaptation, finally, of Y the Last Man. But it has officially died. FX had already canceled it after one season, but of course, the show makers were trying to see if they could get another service to pick it up so that they could continue. And this week, the showrunner tweeted out that no, they could not get another platform, so it's dead. So just one season. I thought they did a good job. I really do. I was into it. Bums me out. They made a movie and Zoe Saldana is in it, apparently. Oh, I can imagine what character she plays. That's interesting. Yeah, I had no idea that they made an adaptation of that. That's interesting. I'll have to see it at some point, out of curiosity. I'm glad that, adaptations are interesting, I guess I'll say. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I've ever seen too many adaptations that surpass their original source material. Sometimes they're very good, but that doesn't usually make them better than the source material itself. And that definitely goes for comic books. I'm trying to think if there's an adaptation of a comic book. Well, yeah, I guess actually I can think of some adaptations that are better than the comic book. Not many, just to be clear. Possibly History of Violence, possibly. I do think that the adaptations of Kick-Ass, Kingsman. I think that the first Kingsman movie was better than the comic. That's just me, though. That's personal taste. Some people may not agree with that. Oh, look at this. Hold on. Got a super chat. Always got to pause when there's a super chat. Thank you, I Am Brunson. Thank you very much. And it says, Hi, Chris. I love the show. Thank you. I was wondering, do you have a favorite Punisher artist? Steve Dillon used to be my favorite, but now it's John Romita Jr. Those would both be towards the very top for me as well, but I will also put Mike Zeck up there, though he was mostly covers, but I think he really captured something cool about the Punisher. I'm trying to think of others that like were highlights. Everything else I'm thinking of is more about the writer than the artist. And I think that Steve Dillon and John Romita Jr. are probably my two overall favorites. Yeah. And I say that coming up with guys like, Jim Lee and Eric Larson working on it. Yeah. Batman the animated series might be close to being better than the comic books. See, I'd say that that's an excellent adaptation. I wouldn't call it better than the comics. Ultimately, if you gave me a choice between I could only watch all the shows or read all the comics, I definitely take the comics. There's so many good stories there. So that's just me, though. Dolph Lundgren Punisher is the superior Punisher. Road to Perdition is better than the comic. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that one as a potential option. Quite possibly. Quite possibly. It's a very good adaptation either way. I don't think there's too many things, though, that surpass the original. With the sole exception being, like, it depends on what you see first can sometimes make the biggest impression. Like, this is just a weird example, but, like, I had seen the Japanese version of the movie Ringu before there was ever an American adaptation, right? So I actually always preferred that version, the Japanese version. But a lot of my friends saw the American version first and then watched Ringu, and so they preferred the American version. And I think it's probably just the impact of the story, like whichever hit you first is going to be the one that you like more. Ray Stevenson is my favorite Punisher. Are you going to discuss the Spidey Zek page that sold? I am going to discuss that. In fact, that's a good segue. So let me just see what topic that was. But so anyway, a page of artwork sold at auction this week for, let me see the number here. Yeah, $3.36 million. There was an auction for a page of artwork from Secret Wars, illustrated by Mike Zeck. The reason it's so special, it was the first appearance of Spider-Man in the black suit, which of course would go on to become Venom. It was not really Venom at the time or anything. It wasn't really anything. Interesting seeing a comic book make that kind of a page of artwork make that kind of an impact. That said, sometimes like that almost makes me a little sad because I'm like, wow, that's so much money. Did Mike Zeck see any of that? No, of course not. So that's a little hard to square that circle when you think about it. Like, he sold it at some point for, what he considered a fair price to, an art collector or somebody like that. And maybe it changed hands a few times, but basically some art collector just made out really big. And hopefully whoever spent, $3.36 million is happy with what they own. That's a very expensive piece of artwork to have on your walls, no question. It's a cool piece of artwork. Wouldn't be the first piece of artwork by Mike Zeck that I'd go after, but that's me. I think some of his stuff on Punisher and Deathstroke and G.I. Joe is some of my favorite work by Mike Zack. Or, honestly, now that I think of it, like any of the covers from Kraven the Last Hunt. God, those were so iconic to me. Anyway. That's a lot of money. And somebody's making money there. But it isn't really the original artist, and that's always just a little tough to accept. A little tough. For me. Coupon the movie was better than the coupon itself, no matter what Mr. Show said. I like that reference. Yeah, NFTs seemed hopeful for a hot second the artist would get a cut. I think NFTs are a scam. I'll be honest, I really do. Would I make a Comic Tropes patch for the shop? Possibly, yeah. I do have buttons, but I don't know how to fulfill them yet. I don't know how to get fulfillment handled right now. But I do have buttons that I want to, like, at some point get out. But first to my patrons. As soon as I feel a little better, I'm going to start mailing some of those out to people. Yeah, NFTs. Here's the thing. I don't see how an NFT, because it doesn't have anything physical behind it, I feel like over time, at some point, somebody won't want that, right? So whoever paid for it last was sort of stuck holding the bag. Yeah, I don't know. I do think it's a fad. Not crypto, but NFTs. That's my personal take on it. I know some people feel very strongly that they really like NFTs, but nah, not for me. They're terrible for the environment. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, not only did I see the Dune NFT nonsense, I got like a tweet that almost, I would say, went fairly viral, has had like, in the tens of thousands of retweets, because shortly after, so let me simplify this. Let me simplify this. A consortium of people this week won an auction for essentially an art book. It was a book created by director Alejandro Jodorowsky, designed as like a pitch for his version of Dune, and you can like learn more about that in the pretty interesting documentary, Jodorowsky's Dune. It's a good movie. It's really interesting. Let me just get this line. Anyway, he put together artwork by guys like H.R. Giger, Alien, Mobius, done episodes on him, Chris Foss, conceptual artist, all sorts of really top-tier talent. And he did not just concept art, but also storyboards for what his movie would be. It was big and ambitious, wildly ambitious, not actually very loyal to the source material, but that doesn't matter because it didn't get made. But it's like the artists that he got, fantastic. Who wouldn't want to see that? Anyway, he made like a bunch of these physical books, hundreds and hundreds of pages, right? Not many of these books, but he made some of them to help him pitch the project to studios. One of them sold this week for what essentially amounts to about $3 million. Well more than it was like appraised at. It was appraised at something like, $300,000 it might go for. Went for $3 million. And then the guys that won it said that like their plan was to release it to the public, create like an animated version of it, and allow people to create derivative works. Well, owning a piece of artwork does not give you the rights to control that intellectual property, but they don't seem to know that. So people have been having a lot of fun at their expense, going like, what are you thinking? I pointed out that a massive amount of those pages of artwork have been online for like 10 years in like a Google Photos folder. One guy like just did a lot of work, has been like scrounging the internet for years, compiling it all. Hundreds and hundreds of storyboards and concept art already available, already out there. So like their idea of like, hey, we're gonna put it out there, and apparently they're like some NFT guys, like they were like hoping to profit off this somehow, but like they were saying that they were gonna put it out there into the world. Well, guys, I hope you didn't spend the money for that reason alone, because it has been out there in the world, available publicly for like 10 years. So I tweeted that. I tweeted a link and I was like, hey, if anyone's interested in seeing this stuff, since somebody spent a lot of money, if you're interested, it's been out there for a long time. Oh my God, did that get shared a lot. Let me just take a quick look and see how many times it's been shared at this point, because it's going up fast. Like every time I'm on Twitter, all I see now are replies and retweets for that, which is a little annoying, but whatever. It happens. All right, as of right now, right this minute, over 15,000 likes, over 3,500 retweets, and coming up on 500 quote tweets. So definitely got a lot of traction. I had no idea that so many people would find that amusing. So yeah, that's, hopefully I gave you the details. Again, I'm sick and I'm a little out of it, so I'm not sure how clear I was with what I just said, but kind of funny. Even if they did own the artwork, Dune is owned by the Herbert estate. Exactly. If you own that book, first of all, there are a few other people that own that book too. It's limited, but it's not existent. Yeah, owning a book would not give you the rights to reproduce that in any way. You could share it for free, but if you wanted to like reproduce it for profit, you don't own the rights to Dune. You don't own the rights to Jodorowsky's ideas for what it would have been. You don't own the rights to the artwork by guys like Mobius and Giger and Foss. Like, you don't own the right to make money off of any of that. Just because you bought that copy. It's so weird. Hope it brings new people to your channel. I don't think it brought a lot, but maybe a little. It's always super funny how everything NFTs claim to be capable are things that JPEGs already do without environmental impact. I feel like I just don't understand it to a degree, because yeah, it's just not something I'm interested in. Another piece of news. This is also adaptation stuff, but actress Leslie Grace showed off what she looks like in her Batgirl costume. I guess they're making a movie based on Batgirl, and it is almost exactly the costume from the 2014 Batgirl series designed by Babs Tarr. She designed a really cool looking like sort of leather zip-up piece with like a cape that snaps on the shoulders. Just really nice looking costume, and they've adapted that like quite literally into film. Looks cool. Looked really cool. I don't know too much about that movie, but hopefully it's good. Either way, all I can say is the costume definitely looks good. So that's one to keep our eyes on. Have I seen the documentary Jodorowsky's Dune? Yeah, I saw that one in the theater. That was great. That was a really interesting movie. Now, I say the documentary is great. That does not mean that I think that his movie would have been great. He definitely had some interesting people, but I don't think it would have been a very good adaptation of the material for whatever it's worth. I don't think he finished it, because in the documentary, it very much seems like he he being Alejandro, saw Paul Atreides as a messiah. And the whole point of Dune is that Atreides was very much not a prophet. That, like, everything lined up to make him look like a prophet. And that certainly led to some danger when people get, like, all wound up in religious fervor. But he is very much not a prophet. But I don't think Jodorowsky saw it that way. So I don't think he would have really done a good adaptation. He also wanted to make it something crazy like 14 hours long. And that's pretty bonkers. So I think, you know what? All I can say is what was good about it was because it didn't happen, he'd formed that solid working relationship with Mobius, and they went on to create comic books exploring the same things. And I'm grateful for that, because I do think that the Incal is a very interesting comic. I think that the Meta Barons, which is a spin-off from that, is pretty cool. So I think that, we lucked out that they didn't get to make their movie version, because instead it meant that they made some of their own ideas exploring the same things in comic book form. Oh, I am really struggling to breathe. Do I think I'll cover more of the Ultimate Marvel Universe at some point? It's possible. I talked about it a couple different times. One in a Brian Hitch episode. One in Jeff Loeb, how he sort of tried to end the Ultimate Universe. But, I might talk at some point about the evolution of Miles Morales. I don't think it would have been better than David Lynch's Dune, for whatever it's worth, because I don't think he got what Dune was. And but also, you're talking to a guy that just really likes David Lynch stuff, so that's a weird movie, but I kind of like it anyway. It's not, I wouldn't even call it a good movie, but I kind of like it. I just like what Lynch does with sound design, the performances he gets out of his actors, etc. Yeah. I saw Twin Peaks at the right time. It made a big impact. I love, I feel like Eraserhead is one of the scariest movies I've seen. I don't know. It's just so disturbing to me. Even though it's not really got any violence or gore per se in it. I saw the new Matrix. I would call it maybe like, second best Matrix movie, but also like, not great. Like, it was a little cheap. It was good. The fights and some of the special effects are a little cheap. That was a little disappointing. You'd love a Miles episode? Yeah, I think Miles has become a great character. I do think that, like, initially Miles was a little too similar to Peter Parker, but that he's evolved into his own character. And what I'd want to say is that's very common for a lot of characters, to not necessarily come out fully formed, to take a little while to evolve, and for serialized characters anyway, specifically. Like that sometimes they draw their inspiration from some of the derivative material. Like Superman gained the ability to fly from the Fleischer cartoons. He gained some of his supporting cast and stuff from the radio serials. These are now things that we think of as just part of the character, but was not fully baked in from day one. And I think that's true for Miles. I think that Into the Spider-Verse movie will ultimately prove tremendously influential to the long term, the fact that it sort of made Miles a little bit more of an artist as compared to just a science nerd. I think that that's a key difference. And then, like, how it connects him to his community a little bit more than Peter Parker is. Don't get me wrong, Peter Parker is the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but he also, you wouldn't see Peter Parker necessarily working at a soup kitchen. He certainly could. It wouldn't be out of character, but it's not like an ongoing part of him. Whereas if Miles was doing that, I'd just be like, oh yeah, that just seems like the kind of person Miles is, to be connected with his community in that kind of way. Yeah. But I like Miles Morales, for the record. I think he's got a great look, slightly interesting powers, slightly different. Good supporting cast. He's got a great supporting cast. His uncle, his best friend, his parents, like, they're all really good. Miles is a great character. But it also took him a little while to get to greatness. Oh, so sick. What else? Oh, speaking of comic book news, Geoff Johns is returning to DC. He hasn't actually been doing much for DC Comics for quite a while, and he's been a little bit quiet since he sort of got in trouble for stuff happening behind the scenes on Justice League, and I can't speak to, I didn't keep up with all of that drama, but he definitely was accused of being a jerk by some people. He was accused of that. I don't know what the fallout was or what the discovery was, but he was accused of that. And so he was a little quiet around DC Comics for a while, but he's coming back to do a sequel to Flashpoint. That's 10 years ago already that he did Flashpoint, which blows my mind because it feels like that's a very new thing for DC. But no, Flashpoint was already 10 years ago that they like rebooted themselves with that story that he kind of came up with. And so he's doing a sequel that I guess is called Flashpoint Beyond. It's going to feature heavily the Thomas Wayne Batman from the other universe. I also thought that universe was like dead and closed off, but I don't know. I guess it's whatever. You can always bring that stuff back, right? Personally, I'm not too excited. I've done some reviews before. Not a huge fan of Geoff Johns. I think he has done some good stuff. JSA was pretty good, but other than that, his work tends to leave me cold. I feel like he just does a little too much. I don't want to quite call it fan fiction, but it's something close to that, where he just brings in ideas that have been explored before and just sort of builds on that as to coming up with sort of a new angle, in my opinion. I feel like he's really heavily influenced by Alan Moore, because I feel like he's used every bit of Alan Moore's stuff that has been done at DC and explored it in new context. Every bit. That's a lot. I just don't connect with his work too much. But his new book, Giger, which is at Image, that was supposed to actually be at DC, by the way, but I guess they had enough of a falling out that went to Image. So there's some sort of drama behind the scenes there. But oh yeah, he also did Three Jokers. I did not like that. I reviewed that on one of these. What was I saying? Just that well, anyway, it doesn't matter exactly what I was saying. I'm not a huge fan. A lot of people do like him. I guess what I was saying was just that Giger is a hit, so that probably it definitely had to help DC be interested in being okay, what else have you got? You want to do some more stuff with Flashpoint? Okay, we're down. One would assume, anyway. It is an assumption. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes with any of that stuff. I love Jeff Johns. Can't wait for Flashpoint 2. Yeah. See, and then JLS says his Blackest Nights was good. Blackest Nights left me cold. It was just like every character was being thrown in. I'm like, am I supposed to know what has been going on with Aquaman for the last 2 years? Like, there's Martian Manhunter stuff being thrown in here. There was all this lore, and I'm just trying to read just the Blackest Night trade paperback, and I was like, I can't follow any of this. They're just throwing in every character in the DC universe, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, I did hear about that, Terry. I read that article, that interview with Joss today. I want to say it's on Slate. Maybe it was Vulture. Can't quite remember now. I didn't think it did much for him. For Joss, I mean. Johns is co-writing it with 2 new writers. Okay, well, who knows, I'm reserving judgment on the thing itself. I was just saying, like, I personally am not necessarily excited for it. I've yet to, like, read something by Jeff Johns that excited me. But I'm not saying he's the worst. It just doesn't connect with me. I think there's a difference there between saying it's bad and saying it doesn't connect with me. That's what I think, but what do you think? I'm sure everybody's talking about that right now. Oh, god damn, am I feeling miserable. I don't know what I have. I hope to hell that it isn't something serious. I'm vaxxed. I'm boosted. And I just am not feeling great. I've just literally been, like, living on my couch for, like, 4 days. I can't get up. I don't have the energy to do much of anything right now. So that's not fun. Oh well. I love Buffy. Speaking of Joss, and somebody says never got the hype around him for Buffy and Firefly. Firefly, not super into. Dollhouse, not super into. Buffy and Angel, I love. Chrissy, I've been doing a rewatch. Chrissy had never seen it, and she seems to be into both shows too. I do like those. I can't change my feelings on that. But there's a lot of people involved in a show. It's not just one person. Like, did he get a lot of the credit? Absolutely. And he probably deserved a lot of the credit for directing where it went. But there were a lot of other writers and producers and certainly actors and actresses that special effects people and musicians that made Buffy and Angel what they were. So I don't feel bad for still liking those things. Like, a lot of people worked very hard to make that what it was. I'm going to use my kneaded eraser to clean up some of this pencil because this is pretty scratchy. My sister asked if I got tested. I booked a test the first day that I wasn't feeling well, but we're really backed up here. The first day that I can get tested isn't until Wednesday, and it might take like 2 days or so to get my results. So, not getting tested until Wednesday. Hopefully, it's nothing serious. Hopefully. I don't know. It doesn't feel like when I had it last time, but you just don't know. There's all these new variants and stuff. Lots of middle-aged women like Buffy. I know the teachers in my middle school did. I loved it. Have a few shots of some hard liquor and you'll feel dandy. I don't know about that. Free kits? I didn't see any. I had the flu about a week ago and I had to rest for 5 days. I think there's a chance, Daniel, that that's what I have is the flu. I think there's a chance. Maybe it's something just like I had cold. Ugh. No, I don't do any drugs, fresh news, so I'm not going to do any weed. Nothing against those who partake, just not for me. I have plenty of friends who enjoy it, and it is legal here, but it's just not for me. This is coming out all right. Right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You know what? This piece, I don't know. You know what? I know what I need. I've been, looking for this guy. Over where I live, the government has been telling people to just self-quarantine if you have... that's basically what I've done, Jeff. I haven't been out of the house for, the last 5 days. Just in case. I had recorded the last episode, the day before I started feeling like crap. So I feel like my performance in the delivery and stuff in my episode on Howard the Duck and Steve Gerber still came out okay. It was very tough to edit. I will say that. It was very tough because I just felt so exhausted and worn out while I was doing that. Whatever. We all get sick, right? That's life. Is it safe to talk about No Way Home yet? I mean, I guess so at this point, but I still won't personally, say any spoilers just in case. Just in case. If I was a movie review show, that would be different. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. Is that something you guys would want to see me do? Is reviews of comic book themed movies on my channel here, this channel? If so, that's always something I could look into. Your performance was great. I wouldn't guess that you were sick while watching it. Well, like I said, I wasn't really feeling too bad that day, but the next day I felt pretty terrible. I recorded that a week ago. Did you get many sponsor offers before you settled with Raid? Oh, I've been getting sponsor offers for years. Daily. I just decided to try something different and use a sponsor to see, I need to see if it affects the YouTube income. If it doesn't affect the YouTube income, I still get that, then maybe it's worth adding a sponsor here and there if they're good. If it lowers the YouTube ad revenue, then it's just not worth it to me. So we'll see. Obviously some people not happy with me doing an ad, and to that, I say, get over yourself. If they're not happy about that specific ad, that's different. But if they're upset at me for just doing an ad in general, come on, man. You have no right to be so entitled to free entertainment. If I need to do an ad to pay the bills, I need to do an ad to pay the bills. I'm not, I don't know. I'm not going to comment on it too much more than that for now. I will have another sponsorship coming up soon that's been very easy to work with, is all I'll say. And I'm really looking forward to you guys doing that, because they let me do whatever I want for the ad, which I think is a really cool way to approach it. And So all I'll say is, I looked at that one and I was like, well, look, I know plenty of people don't necessarily like any particular service that I might accept, but at the end of the day, I was like, okay, well, this is a game it's up to you. It's free to download, right? You don't have to pay for it. Sure, why not? Graphics looked good, so why not? I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. So I don't feel like that was a bad thing to pitch to you guys. There have been a lot of products that I've said no to because I just don't think that they make any sense. We're talking pants, certain like clothes, but like pants specifically that like just were like fancy pants, fancy pants. What else? Special blankets, like heavy winter blankets. Like what? Various technology things, like like various like peripherals. It just didn't necessarily quite seem like a good fit. If it was like for drawing or comics, maybe it would be, but otherwise, eh. What else? Hair loss? A hair loss formula? Come on now. I joke about being old, but it doesn't mean my audience is. I know my audience metrics. That made no sense. Hair loss formula on my channel, it just didn't make sense. So I've been saying no for literally years. Literally years I've been getting offers for sponsors, and I've just said no because I find them annoying, and I had a full-time job, so I didn't need the income. But now I am trying to do this as a full-time job. That is a difference, and I need to monetize areas that are monetizable, and hopefully I'm able to navigate that in ways that will not be overly burdensome or annoying to my audience. I don't want to alienate my audience. That's the last thing I want to do. So I am taking a look at like things that are being offered to me. I've been offered, for instance, like a VPN, but like by like a company I couldn't really find any good reviews for, right? Or skincare products that I couldn't find good reviews for. And I'm like, if I can't find if I can't verify basically that it's a good product, or that it's like, not going to like rip someone off, it's an immediate no. So whatever. I tried something new with this sponsor. Response has been mixed. Some people like fine with it. Some people a little upset. I did have a single person say that they were unsubscribing because I did an ad on Comic Tropes, and I was like, if that's what it takes, if you're gonna unsubscribe over that, like, please do, because like, wow, just the gall of feeling like you were entitled to free entertainment. I don't know. That definitely annoyed me. Yeah, how dare I actually include an ad? If that was what it took to get you to unsubscribe, please go. You don't want to talk about being bald, but will you talk about shaving your balls? If like I was like, maybe, I don't know. I bet you would love a Mountain Dew sponsor. Maybe Double Dew. No, I don't drink soda anymore or anything. Like you may have noticed, I've been able to lose some weight. I really don't have sugar anymore, so I don't think it would be honest for me to take a sponsorship like that, to be honest. I wouldn't do that. Even if I like the product. I like Mountain Dew. I think it tastes good. I loved the feeling of energy, but I don't have that anymore because I don't want to... it was hurting me. It wasn't good. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, maybe. I think it's fine for you to do an ad segment. You need to pay the bills somehow. The only thing I wish is that they'd let me do a smaller ad. I felt like it was long. I will say that. But, you know, I agreed to their terms, and it was my decision. In the future, I would want it to be a lot smaller, or I just won't do it. That's just me. But, you know, live and learn. I'm not against what I did. I just, yeah. Jojo with the reference to the state. How about trying some of your own advice? Pants, eh? I don't know how many people know what I'm talking about, but The State was a sketch comedy show in the the late 90s. On MTV. And for a single episode, CBS. It's pretty funny. Well done on giving up the sugar. It's a smart thing to do. Not for me. Yeah, no sugar, hardly any carbs. So, I live my life like, anything you ever see me drinking at this point is water. And sometimes I will flavor it with that stuff like Mio or similar, which has like no sugar or carbs. It's just some chemicals that gives it some flavor. It's all right. Oversimplified is a master at working ads into his content. I don't know that channel. I don't know that one. But that's great. You know, there's some channels that don't need to do ads, or at least have refused to. I don't think I've ever seen an integrated ad on Red Letter Media. But as somebody who's been a supporter of theirs on Patreon, I can tell you that they have like one of the most healthy Patreon bases I've ever seen. Like just really, really strong. Like they make a lot of money off of that. So they probably don't need to do integrated ads. If, like, literally, if 1% of my audience pledged $1 a month to my Patreon, I also wouldn't have to do that. That's how little you need in terms of support, but it isn't there. It means I'm extra grateful for the people that do support me on stuff like Patreon, especially there's people that, like, will pledge, like, $2 or $5 and stuff. That's amazing. But literally, like, think about that. I've got like, well, it's going to come up pretty soon on, like, 200,000 subscribers. But like, let's just say it was only 100,000 and 1% of that. So what's that, like 1,000? Well, okay, so maybe I need more than that, right? I did the math wrong. Maybe I need more than that. Let me do some quick math of what I actually have for subscribers here. And if I had 1% of them, I need more than 1%. I was oversimplifying it. I would need more than 1% to like make a good living. Maybe more like 3%. If 3% pledged $1. They're still living off that space cop money. But then there's other channels that I really like that do integrated ads. Corridor Crew is a fantastic channel where they break down special effects, stunts, animation. I love that channel. They do a fantastic job. They have integrated ads, and I don't begrudge them for that. There's a YouTuber in my town with a $500 a month level. Wow. What could they possibly offer at that point? Like a month? Wow. Did they give you like a free place to live? That is something. I try to keep my tiers kind of low on my Patreon because I don't have the time to do a lot of fulfillment of special rewards. So I'd rather just say, like, hey, if you appreciate what I do and you want to pledge something small and manageable for you, that makes a big difference to me. And I'm like, but please don't go out of your way to, like, you know, go crazy with your donation. That's fine. Never taught this stuff in college. What to charge for Patreon? Astro City. Yeah, I would be interested in talking about Astro City at some point. Yeah, that would be interesting. He and his wife will fly anywhere in the U.S. to take you to dinner after 3 months. Well, yeah, it's... So essentially saying, like, if you will pay for my flights, I will travel to your town. Yeah, of course. It's not much. You know what I'd love to see Corridor Crew do? Sometimes they do animation episodes. I would love to see them talk about the history of Popeye in animation, because Popeye has gone through a lot of different animators, and my favorite is still the early stuff by Fleischer Studios, probably followed by, like, when Paramount took over, and then there's some cheap ones after that, but, you know, whatever. It would be interesting to compare that stuff, I think. I think that would be very interesting. So the next time they ask for people to suggest stuff, just keep in mind, reply with Popeye. Let's see if we can get them to do that. Wow, thank you, Michael. Your Steve Gerber vid was great. I appreciate you. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. I really appreciate that a lot. I'm going to talk about someone from roughly the same time period in the next video as well. But, boy, do I have a bunch of ideas for stuff coming up, folks. Just so many ideas. I don't even know where to start. I love the way old Popeye cartoons integrated model work into the backgrounds of the animation. They did some really interesting stuff with, like, 3D backgrounds in the early Fleischer stuff, well before Disney was doing it. Like, honestly, like, Popeye was very innovative for animation, just animation, yeah. Just really innovative. Very, very cool stuff. And that's definitely something I would consider doing as an episode at some point, to, like, talking about the comic strip Popeye by E.C. Seeger. Not quite a superhero, but, you know, paved the way to some degree. Looking good, Chris. I'm getting a little Cam Kennedy energy from it. Oh, that's cool. Oh, you have them on DVD. Really? That's really cool. They're available on YouTube. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't. Yeah, Daniel says Popeye the Sailor Meets Alibaba's 40 Thieves is my favorite Popeye cartoon that I rewatched many times as a kid. It upsets me that the Corridor Crew never did a segment on anything Kyoto Animation have worked on, especially since I think something like a silent voice is one of the best examples of Japanese animation. I don't know a silent voice. I'll look it up later. That's really cool. energy is like fading on me. That's why I'm sort of like drawing so slowly, I think. Sorry. I still need to eat tonight. Whew. There's some very nice 1/12 Popeye figures coming out soon. Castor oil is in the first wave. Are you excited for the new Spider-Man comic with John Romita Jr.? I don't know if excited. Excited might overstate it. I am going to check it out, though. I am. When JR Jr. does good work, it's great. I seriously love him. Sometimes I feel like, his work maybe been like rushed or not super engaged, but he can do gorgeous, gorgeous work. And I think that his work on Spider-Man post-Clone Saga was really, really gorgeous stuff. You ever been to the comic strip and Marvel Lands of Universal Islands of Adventure? No, I haven't actually. That would be fun, but nope, haven't done it. How about yourself? Has anybody here been to the Islands of Adventure stuff? I wonder how long that contract goes for before Disney just sort of, ends it and does it all themselves. I bet it's not indefinite. Corridor would need a guest that specializes in anime. Well, I'm sure they could find someone. I'm sure. Oh, that sounds interesting, Moritaka. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I think that Corridor Crew should have me on to talk about comics with them, right? I guess that maybe that's not energetic enough for like what they do. I do like that show a lot, though. That would be quite the dream to sit in on the couch. What's this? Hey! IS2CT. What's that mean, Sam? IS2 CT. CT might mean comic tropes, right? I don't understand. This is like a Wordle puzzle, right? I can't cross this Wordle hurdle. IS2 or 1S2? 1 Season 2? I don't get it. I'm trying to. I'm sorry. What does that mean? S2 equals love? Oh, yeah, because it sort of looks... Yeah, it does look like a heart. I love comic tropes. Is that what you mean? Ah, thank you. I love it. That's great. Thank you so much. That was fun to decipher. And I see it now. I've never seen anyone do that before, but I totally see the heart now. That's great. That's great. I'm fading, guys, but I can definitely finish this. Well, there was more news of the week. There's more news of the week. Stop motion? Oh, yeah, that could be cool. They should definitely talk about stop motion. On just regular Corridor Crew. Let's see here. What other topics did I have? Oh, okay. Jonathan Hickman confirmed basically what we all thought, which was Marvel seemed to do nothing with their X-Men comics from like around 2010 forward for about like 7 or 8 years. while Fox held the rights to it, and they were doing, Marvel was doing their own movies for their own characters, but like didn't have the rights to X-Men. And people were like, it seems like, cutting off your nose to spite your face, it's like it didn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't you still make good comics? It doesn't make sense. But it certainly seemed to be that way. Well, Jonathan Hickman is wrapping up his X-Men tenure, and he was on a podcast called Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, and he said, hold on, I think I wrote down the exact quote because it's brief, but it confirms it. He said, he had pitched, Jonathan Hickman had pitched that he wanted to do X-Men stuff for years to Marvel, and they were like, no, we don't want to do anything too big with X-Men. Sorry, keep doing Avengers, do Fantastic Four, do Secret Wars, cool. X-Men, no, we don't want you to do X-Men. Okay. And then all of a sudden, like, they got the rights back, and this is what Jonathan Hickman said on the podcast. He said, the Fox deal had been done, implying, like, when Disney bought Fox, so we could do X-Men stuff again. And that's when he was allowed to do House of X, Powers of 10, and reboot the X-Men with, like, a new status quo. So we'd all sort of suspected that was, like, Marvel's thing, and he basically just spelled it out. Yeah, Hickman definitely gave X-Men new status quo. I'm going to miss his guiding hand there, but excited to see whatever he does next. There's somebody I want to do an episode about sometime. Talk about what kind of writing techniques Jonathan Hickman puts to work, like what kind of stuff he employs to tell his stories in a unique fashion. Boba deserves color. If you would like that, Gene, then I can probably make that happen. For you, I'll make it happen. I was thinking what would really make this cool, but I don't have the time or energy tonight. But like, what would really make it cool? Laying down some Zipatone, give this guy some depth and texture with that. I think that would be dope. Joe, thank you. Super chat from Joe from, I'm going to guess, the UK, because it looks like it came to me in pounds sterling. That's very kind of you. Thank you. You know what? I'm going to use a thicker brush for that. Hickman would make a great episode. Yeah. I've definitely considered it before. The thing that makes him challenging is he writes big, epic, multi-part stories. So that's a lot of images that I'd need to collect to do a proper episode about him. Do I do watercolors? No, I mean, I've played with them before, but I wouldn't say that I can do them well or anything like that. Definitely admire those who can. Not against learning it, just would not say that I can do it right now. It is the UK. Where in the UK? I've got more topics about news. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is an interesting one. The rights to Predator have been resolved. Not Marvel, really. Disney has resolved their differences with the writers of the original Predator movie that were, they had a big lawsuit going to regain control of their creations. And, so that's, Marvel has the rights now to make their Predator comic books, which they had solicited originally all the way back in July of last year. That got delayed to November, and we haven't seen a resolicitation in a while because we knew that there was this pending legal case going on. Anyway, that has been resolved. So while there's no official date yet on when we will get them, I would expect pretty soon some Predator comics, because those have absolutely been made. They Marvel, once they bought, I should say Disney, once Disney bought Fox, they definitely plan to do both Alien and Predator comics, but then at the last minute there was a legal battle over the rights to Predator that held it up. But that has now been resolved, and I would not be surprised to see Predator comics real soon. And I think Predator honestly is a little easier to make comics for than Alien, because Alien is truly horror, and horror can be a tricky beast, at least certain types of horror within comics. You certainly can't surprise someone in a comic, really. You can show something disturbing, but it's not quite the same. Whereas Predator is a little scary, but it's also action. It's flat out action. And I just think it's possibly lends itself more to comic book storytelling than Alien. And there have been some good Alien stories. Please don't get me wrong. Dead Orbit by James Stokoe is fantastic. Did I ever watch the Legion series on FX? I watched a bunch of the first season, and then I had gotten rid of cable, so I didn't see it all. In amongst the rolling heather and the countryside, basically, the accent is the accent they gave to the pirates in the old films and The Simpsons. Yar, matey. Yar, I'm from Heather. Did I get it right? I don't know. The page flip can be surprising, I think. Well, it can be. It can be. You want it to be, as an artist and a writer and stuff. But, tricky. It's tricky. Here we go. It's tricky to be tricky. It's tricky to be tricky. It's tricky. You know that song? Oh. I can't breathe. Ay, do I feel like cruppa. After this, I'm going to just eat and pass out. Alright, so I'm going to erase the last of the pencil, and then my sister said she wanted to see this colored, so I'm going to give it some color. I want Hasbro to make Aliens Predator toys again. Nika is too pricey, and the current IP holder is Walmart only. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. It's tricky. Here we go. I know that song. I would hope everybody knows that song. It's Run DMC. It's hard to believe in Run DMC. I don't have the rules and everything figured out yet, but I want to let you know I'm considering two sort of giveaways that I'm developing for this channel. I want to do a shopping spree at a comic book shop. There will obviously be some limitations there. And then I also want to do a small grant so that somebody could self-publish their comic. That would probably be a competition. Both of those will probably take a while to work out the kinks as to like how I'll actually do it. But I just want you to know that those are two things that I'm currently actively developing and setting money aside for, to give like more content to the show, and to sort of hopefully give back a little to some of the people that watch the Shire. I think webtoons can do horror a bit better because of their format. Thanks for bringing that up, Mikey, because that was the next topic that I had here. There's a trailer out there called All of Us Are Dead. It's a Korean horror TV show. Zombies. And it's coming to Netflix in a month or two. I thought it looked really cool. Again, All of Us Are Dead. Worth looking up on, after you finish this, of course, on YouTube. And I looked it up. It's based on a comic. Specifically, it's based on a Korean webtoon. Sometimes they call it manhwa, but mostly it translates to webtoons. That's their online comics where you just scroll down for each sort of chapter. Very popular over there, for the record. Very, very, very popular. And it just like, and so then I went down a rabbit hole of discovering, my God, just so many Korean webtoons have been adapted into TV shows, movies, and video games over there. It's insane. And then I started thinking, like, well, man, why are online comics not? They're like just not as popular over here, you know? And they're growing. They are growing. I'm not going to say they're not nothing or anything weird like that. But it's just amazing. Like it's really a South Korean thing. Like online comics are ridiculously popular over there. Everybody reads them. I won't say that I've come across one where like the art has like totally blown me away yet, though. They do seem like they're produced a little faster or cheaper. But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting how many of them are over there and how popular it is. And you have to figure like, hey, if the American comic industry went belly up tomorrow for some reason, right? Like just all of a sudden there was no more interest in Marvel and DC stuff. Well, comics would definitely not go anywhere because you could always make web comics at this point. And, to do it well would take some money and infrastructure. But to just do it in general, yeah, it's something at this point like very low barrier to entry to getting your story out there. You do not need to put it in print just to prove that you can do it. That would be very generous. Yeah, it should be fun. Now that Marvel is doing Predator comics, are there crossovers I hope to see? I'd just like to see more, Alien Predator. That's what I want to see. Haven't seen you in forever. Looking good. Well, thank you for coming in, Vi Hegra. Webcomics have a spotty history and of having weird fandom and questionable humor here in America. You're not wrong. It's just that also could certainly be successful. There's nothing that would stop that reputation from changing if people put in the time and effort to telling good stories on that platform. And once somebody proves that the platform is really viable, by having something there adapted into a successful movie, oh my goodness, is that going to open up the floodgates? And that's okay with me. It just means lots of people will be able to get their stories out there, and the cream always rises, There's always some junk, but the cream rises. Hope you like this, Gene. Throwing in some color here. Taking me a minute because I'm trying to not mess up. This is relaxing. This part's not so bad. This is nice. Oh, and here's one last piece of news, because I was thinking of trailers. Right now, there is the Monday night wildcard game going on, the NFL wildcard game. And Marvel will be debuting the first full trailer for Moon Knight during that. So I would say there's a very good chance, I don't know if it's up yet, but if it isn't, it will be like, by about the time I finish streaming, you'll be able to go onto YouTube and look up Moon Knight trailer. And there was a teaser, tiny little teaser yesterday, but I think that there should be a full trailer very soon. And so that could be cool. Oscar Isaac, great actor. Moon Knight, weird character. Did an episode about him. But when character is sort of weird and obscure, it means that you can take chances and do cool new things. Does Penny Arcade count as a webcomic? Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I like Moon Knight. Weird character, and I like weird. Somebody that's dealing with, mental issues. Interesting idea, giving like somebody power and ability that is, at heart a good person, but not all there. Lots of inherent conflict right from the get-go. All right, let's see what I've got for a good color for Boba Fett himself. Halftime is in 3 minutes of game time. Yeah, probably that's when it will air. I think that this is sort of it says teal blue, and I think that that's going to be the best I can get for Mr. Fett here. Yeah, that's about right. He's Boba the Fett. His backpacks got jets. Oh man, I used to really like MC Chris. I saw him in concert a couple times. Boy, that was a long time ago now, though. I don't know if he still performs live. I would assume he does. Whew, not feeling good. I don't know how bad my voice sounds tonight, folks. I'm putting in a supreme effort to sort of talk a little bit deeper, because with my nose this congested, my body wants to just sort of talk in a high-pitched nasal tone. Moon Knight is fun. The original run is fun and strange. The Hit issue is a big one, where they finally let Bill go free. Yeah, I mean, when I think of Moon Knight, I have to admit, I personally still think of Bill Sienkiewicz art, and specifically him moving from sort of trying to draw like Neil Adams to experimenting and doing more of his own thing, which is what I now think of as Bill Sienkiewicz. I like Bill Sienkiewicz's artwork a lot. He's just so experimental and stuff. And his creator-owned thing, Stray Toasters, he mentioned he's going to be doing a Kickstarter for some sort of a compiled collection of it. So if you've never read that before and you want to sort of understand what Bill Sienkiewicz is all about, like, keep your eye out for that. I'll definitely mention it on this as part of news once it goes live. MC Chris is great on C-Lab 2021. Look at that. C-Lab 2021 is now set in the past. That like joke show that was supposed to be set in the future. If you're looking for me, you better check under the sea, 'cause that is where you'll find me. Underneath the sea lab. Alright, that took a lot out of me. What do we got here? Hey, super chat. Boo, 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 boo. That's everything I had for it. Michael, webcomics seem to often be 3-panel design. I like comics that play with page design when telling a story. That's fair. I also appreciate that, but we have to consider that it is a slightly different medium. So that brings with it its own slightly different rules. So you could prefer what they can do with print comics, and I certainly do. But I do respect what they're trying to figure out with webcomics, because like the first comics that were put online were just uploaded regular formatted pages like you'd print. But then people were realizing like, oh, well, you know, you're looking at like more of like a rectangle than as in landscape, not portrait. So people started changing it that way, and then people were realizing like, well, wait a minute, we can do infinite scrolling down. So let's tell stories with it like, you know, stacked this way. And yes, now you're limited to that's the only real way you've got to tell it, but it is different. It is different from traditional print comics is all I'm saying. I like seeing what they can do, and someday somebody will figure out something innovative to do with that when the technology or creative impulse strikes them properly. Whew. The C-Lab 2021 characters were in Archer, is that right? I didn't know that. MC Chris did do a song for Kevin Smith for his podcast. He did a song for that. My pal Nate Belgard is a comic book artist and did something for MC Chris. Give me one sec. Last year, Nate drew an Image comic called Stealth. He's also done stuff for Image like Brit, Nowhere Men, Hector Plasm. Great artist. Just incredible. So good. These days, he's mostly doing background character design for the Invincible cartoon for Kirkman. But he... Actually, now that I think of it, shit, I introduced Nate to MC Chris. I totally forgot until I just thought of it now. But there was a... Not that I knew MC Chris that well, but it was a Chicago Comic-Con, and MC Chris had a table in Artist Alley. And he didn't have that many people around him when I went, anyway. I don't remember what year. Maybe 2004, maybe. Anyway, I met, we chatted, just hit it off. Had a good conversation about comics and stuff like that. Later, I bumped into my friends Nate and Benito and some other people, and I was telling them that there wasn't much going on at MC Chris's table. He was a really nice guy, and they were like, "Oh, we like MC Chris. I was like, "Okay, let's go over there." And since I already said hello, I'll introduce you. So that's the extent of the introduction. It wasn't like we were friends. I was just like, "Hey, nice to see you again." He's like, "Hey, man." I was like, "These are my friends." Blah 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 blah. And he really liked Nate's artwork, which any sensible person would. And he hired Nate to do designs. I think Nate may have done a couple of his album covers, certainly did some posters, but the biggest thing was he also did a pitch for an MC Chris cartoon. And that was done completely in Nate's style. Like, Nate literally did most of the animation and all of the character design work, and it's very much Nate's designs. I thought it looked awesome. Adult Swim didn't pick it up, so that didn't go anywhere. But I think you can still find it online. If you look for MC Chris cartoon, it's basically like him as this short little guy talking to like a sleazy agent, and then he goes on an adventure in like a jetpack in the sky. If you look at that, that's artwork by my buddy Nate. Really, really talented artist. Underrated, in my opinion. Comics is a small world. That's all I'll say. Is comics is always a small world. You don't have to go too far to get introduced to somebody. If you make one friend in comics, you can start making a lot more. But that means that you have to be a good person, because it will definitely get around if you are a jerk. That is not going to be a secret that you can keep hidden. And some people won't want to work with you if you are a jerk. Someone should invent web flipbooks. There you go. Moon Knight premiere is soon. That's cool. Should I just quit? Are you guys all gonna just like go like, I gotta see it now. See ya, Chris. That would be fair. I want to see it, but I'll watch it afterwards, because once it's online, I've noticed it stays online. These are just 2 colors so far, and it already, I feel like, kind of looks like Boba Fett. A little bit of red, little bit of teal, and we got Boba. I guess I could have also, now that I think of it, like I put in like all the scratches and like, you know, dents and stuff. I could have done him in his new current armor where it's like all cleaned up, you know, a nice dark green, no scratches on the helmet. Black underclothes. I could have done that, but I drew him in sort of the classic style that I remember him from, like, you know, Empire Strikes Back and stuff. That's still what I think of first when I think of Boba Fett. That's what multiple tabs are for. Oh, you're gonna listen to it while you're listening to me? My God, you guys are ambitious. I just hope Moon Knight's catchphrase is just like in the comics where he goes, Moon Knight! That is not his catchphrase, people. By the power of the moon, it's night time! Moon Knight's powers are to turn day into night. Everybody knows that. Now, his powers are basically just to punch and kick well. And to have dissociative identity disorder. Not too many superheroes with that. Arguably the Hulk and Moon Knight. Can't think off the top of my head of anybody in DC that has it. But it is interesting, isn't it, that like there's more, because I can only think of one supervillain, Typhoid Mary, that has dissociative identity disorder. And if so, that's good, you know, that we're still portraying them as heroes, you know, as good guys, because people have problems, that's all. But they can deal with them. Can manage them. They can still be good people. We can all still beat up bad guys if we try hard enough. As long as you try hard enough, you can beat up a bad guy. By the powers of moonshine, I have the power. That's it. His catchphrase is nighty night. Nighty night, criminal. Oh, he's given us the night night. I regret everything I did that was wrong. Nighty night, scum. So my favorite thing this week that I did was kind of trollish, but on Twitter I posted, what was that one issue of Superman where he's having trouble with flatulence and his parents are trying to help him, and then he loses control and he blasts a cow into pudding? And I thought that was pretty absurd, right? Like, an idea of like a Superman comic being about him farting. But you know what? A number of people thought it was serious, and they're like, what? Wow, what issue is this? I gotta know. And I don't think that they were playing back. I think that like a lot of people like legit were like, wow, tell me, Chris, like what is that issue? And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just making shit up. That's no. There is not an issue of Superman where his parents teach him how to deal with farts. That would probably not make for an interesting Superman story. You could do a Superman story like that. Might even be comprehensible. I don't think it would make for a good story. Magenta at DC has DID, Flash's old girlfriend. Does she? Oh, okay. Yeah, Badger had it. Yep. Spider-Man's catchphrase is, "Shocker, I'll chase you to the ends of the earth." Yes, we all know Shocker, Spider-Man's arch enemy. The one that even like Doc Ock and Green Goblin quake in fear when they hear his name. Shocker. As a kid, I was always sort of like, well, wait a minute, like what makes Shocker special that Electro doesn't already offer? And I was like, oh, I guess he isn't like really electric. He just sort of vibrates. That's not as exciting. And it wasn't. Ugh. First thing I'm going to do when I wrap up this stream is going to be blow my nose. And I'm not going to do that live on stream because gross. But it is something I'm going to do in a little bit. I can't believe I've done like basically a full show tonight. I thought that I might have only lasted like half an hour. I'm personally proud of myself for outdoing that. I didn't think that I would necessarily be able to do that. Because I don't feel great. I will say that. A Superman story about flatulence sounds like a very bad Adam Sandler comedy. Probably true. Yeah. You're not wrong. You are not incorrect. We use this gray here to fill in this area. We're going to have a good looking piece of artwork. Just wait. I just know it. Can't breathe. Let's see. Wasn't a farting Superman a Howard Stern character? I think it was just Howard Stern himself. You have done well to do the whole show. The power of tropes compels these. Can't even talk anymore. Electro and Shocker are easily mixed up. There you go. There you go. Let's see. I've got an action figure down there that I look at for like the color scheme. I guess there is a little more red, actually. Should do a series like Yacht Rock about the early days of Image. Oh! I like that idea. Tell you what, if I ever have money, I'm going to do that. I don't know who I'd play, but I'm going to play one of them. A Yacht Rock about the early days of comics. Actually, I just like your idea is good, but like I'd also love to see one with like, you know, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, like Golden Age Yacht Rock about the characters. I guess these are yellow. Color it dark orange. That's fluorescent. That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna fly. Prawn? You can give it a shot. Might not be right, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Yeah, that's okay. It'll work for this. That could be so much fun. Do a little 5-minute episodes about like all the people that like work together in comics. Oh, I love it. Mustard. Yeah, maybe so. Tell you what. Let me go over it with this yellow to change the color a little. See what happens. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay. Wish it was easy to travel these days. I mean, today I couldn't, but until I feel better. But I'm just saying, I miss traveling. I was gonna see my family in February, but canceled the tickets because it just didn't seem safe right now. Kind of a bummer, though. I miss them. I'd love to go back to Japan. Love to go to Iceland, I think. So many places. Not to be. How common is it for people to sue each other and then work together again? Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't really know. Now I sort of have to use this to make it match. Sue each other and then work again together? I don't think it's common at all to like... I'm trying to think. Who's worked together after suing each other? I'm stumped. I can think of like plenty of high-profile court cases like Gaiman versus McFarlane and, you know, Jack Kirby versus Marvel, etc. Not a whole lot of them have like, you know, gone back. I mean, the only one I'm thinking of off the top of my head is because I just did it this week. Steve Gerber sued Marvel and then it worked for them again. But I definitely can't think of two individuals that, like, you know, worked together like that. I'd love to go to Switzerland to visit my friend. Oh, that would be nice. The Moon Knight trailer just dropped. There you go. I don't know if I even need to finish this. I mean, I'd put in some grays and silvers. You kind of get it. You kind of get it. What about your friends? What about my friends? I don't really see them anymore. I miss my friends. I see them a little bit here and there. Not too much. Not too much. Johansson will be working with Marvel again as a director, I think. Oh, yeah? Didn't the Howard the Duck creator sue That's what I just said. I just did that as an episode. I just did that. Anyway, thanks for staying with me, guys. We talked about some news of the week. Talked about the comics that I read this week. Definitely recommend I Kill Giants and The Good Asian. Great stuff. I gotta call it. I'm just dead. I can barely breathe. I gotta blow my nose. I gotta eat. And then I'm going straight to bed. Yeah, you might not be right. You might be right about that, Master Shake. I sincerely appreciate y'all being here. It means everything to me. And thank you also for the super chats. Talk to them online? Not a lot, to be honest. I don't talk to people online too much. I talk to some acquaintances, but like my close friends, I have to admit I don't talk to online too much. A little bit. But yeah, hey, if the Moon Knight trailer is here, why don't we call this a night? Thank you, Chris Sears. That's a lovely way to end the show. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. I'll use that to get myself some NyQuil or something like that, okay? Gene, thank you for being here. Hopefully you like the colors okay of what I chose. Good suggestion. And I will see everybody soon. I'll be back here next week to talk about whatever I've read, and you'll see me before then because I have a new Comic Tropes episode in the works, and as long as I can deliver what I'm talking about, that's the only thing is, I'm not feeling great, so like, how would that sound if I delivered it right now? But as long as I can get it, as long as I can suck it up, there will be an episode very soon. You'll see that this Sunday. Or sooner, if you're a Patreon subscriber. And by the way, patrons get access to the video without ads, without integrated ads or ads. So, am I aware David Finch's stream ends at this time? No, I didn't know that he had one. But thank you. You guys are great. Take care. I'm out of it. I really am. I don't know what I want to say at this point. Hold on. Keep reading comics. And then this will go for a few seconds so that I don't cut myself off by stopping the stream while I'm still talking. See you, everybody. You guys are great.